3 years after losing her husband, a widow discovers a secret that shatters everything she thought she knew, and finds herself falling for the man who holds the final piece of the puzzle. Before we get started, let me know in the comments, what's your favorite summer spot? And at the end, I'd love to hear what you thought of the story. Enjoy! Morgan Grant had moved through the last 3 years in a haze of grief. The world around her had become gray and muted after the accident that took her husband, Chris, at just 40 years old. He had been a force of nature, a rock that held their family together. Without him, Morgan and her 17-year-old daughter, Clara, were adrift. Their once close bond was now frayed, a constant source of friction. Clara, rebellious and distant, blamed Morgan for the slow unraveling of their lives. Morgan, in turn, saw her own youthful mistakes reflected in Clara's recklessness. Desperate to escape the stifling emptiness of their suburban home, Morgan packed up the car and drove them to the last place she ever wanted to be, the coastal town of Bar Harbor, Maine, where Chris had spent his childhood summers. The plan was simple: sort through the family cottage he had inherited and sell it. Maybe the salty air and the change of scenery would do them some good. Maybe. The cottage was a small, weather-beaten house perched on a bluff overlooking the Atlantic. The scent of salt and pine filled the air, a scent that Morgan remembered from the few times Chris had brought her here. She stepped onto the porch and the worn wood creaked under her sandals. The sound was comforting and melancholic all at once. Inside, the house was a time capsule of Chris's life. A faded photograph of him as a boy, a stack of old surf magazines, a dusty acoustic guitar in the corner. Clara stomped up the stairs to claim a bedroom. "This place smells like old people," Clara called down. "It smells like memories," Morgan said softly, but Clara had already slammed a door. Morgan stood alone, facing the ghosts. Later that afternoon, a familiar figure appeared on the beach below, a tall man with sun-bleached hair and a confident stride. Morgan watched from the porch as he caught a wave, his movements fluid and graceful. The sight was a sharp, painful reminder of Chris, who had taught her to surf on this very beach. She felt a familiar ache in her chest. The next day, Morgan found herself on the sandy beach, sorting through a box of Chris's old things. Clara was nowhere to be found, no doubt off with some local boy. Morgan sighed, sifting through vintage t-shirts and worn-out sandals. She pulled out a small waterproof pouch. Inside was a single bent key and a faded, torn photograph of Chris and another man standing on a sailboat. The man had a wide, easy smile. He looked a lot like the surfer from the day before. Looking for something? Morgan looked up. The man from the beach was standing over her, a small smile on his face. He was older than he seemed from a distance. Laugh lines around his eyes, a hint of gray at his temples. He was around her age, maybe a few years older. "I'm just sorting through some of my husband's things," Morgan said, her voice a little shaky. "He grew up here." "Chris Grant." The words caught in Morgan's throat. "I know. We were best friends." Morgan's heart hammered against her ribs. "You knew Chris?" she asked, a spark of hope flickering through her grief. "I'm Morgan, his wife. Liam Reynolds," he said, extending a hand. His grip was firm and warm. "It's good to finally meet you. I was sorry to hear about everything." They sat on the sand, the sun warm on their faces. Liam told stories about Chris that Morgan had never heard before. Their teenage misadventures, their dreams of sailing around the world, a summer job they had together on the fishing docks. He had a way of making Chris feel alive again, not just a ghost in a photograph. "We once stole a lobster trap from Old Man Henderson's boat," Liam said, laughing. "Chris was terrified we'd get caught. He made me return it at 3 in the morning. Morgan smiled. "That sounds like him. Always the responsible one." "Responsible?" "He jumped off the pier on a dare when we were 16. Broke his arm. He told me he broke it playing baseball." Liam's eyes crinkled. Chris was a terrible liar. His ears would turn red. Morgan felt warmth spreading through her chest. These stories, this version of Chris she'd never known. "He always said he was going to buy a new boat," Liam said, a note of sadness creeping into his voice. "A real sailboat, not that old thing he had when we were kids." Morgan looked down at the photograph in her hand. "This one?" she asked, holding it out. Liam's smile faltered. His eyes widened slightly as he took in the image. "Yeah," he said softly, his tone shifting. "That was the Wanderer. Our first boat." There was a long silence. Morgan could feel a new kind of tension building in the air. a shift from comfortable nostalgia to something more guarded. She looked at Liam's face. He was no longer smiling. "Liam, what is it?" Morgan pressed. "Is something wrong?" He shook his head, his gaze fixed on the photograph. "Nothing. It's just a lot of old memories." But Morgan knew it was more than that. He was holding something back. The air, once light and salty, now felt heavy and thick. She glanced at the crumpled photo, then at the single key in her palm. A key to what? She had no idea. "My husband," Morgan said, her voice tight, "told me he sold that boat years ago." Liam finally looked at her, and his eyes held a secret Morgan couldn't decipher. "He did," Liam said, but his voice was unconvincing. "But there was something else." He paused. A fleeting expression of regret crossed his face. He picked up his surfboard and stood, shaking the sand from his feet. "I have to get going," he said abruptly, not meeting her eyes. "It was good seeing you, Morgan." "Really? Wait, what do you mean something else?" But he was already walking away. Morgan watched him go, the photograph trembling in her hand. He had lied to her. She was certain of it. What was he hiding? And what did it have to do with her late husband and his mysterious accident? That evening, Morgan sat on the cottage porch, watching the sun sink into the Atlantic. The sky was painted in brilliant oranges and deep purples. The breeze carried the scent of sea roses from the nearby dunes. Clara appeared in the doorway, her face flushed. "I'm going out." "With who?" Morgan asked, trying to keep her voice neutral. "His name is Leo. He works at the marina." "Clara, we just got here. You don't know these people." Clara's jaw tightened. "And? You met Dad when you were my age. At least I'm not getting pregnant." The words hit like a slap. Morgan stood up. "That's not fair, isn't it?" Clara shot back. "You've been punishing me for your mistakes my entire life. I'm not you, Mom. Stop treating me like I am." She turned and ran down the porch steps, disappearing into the gathering dusk. Morgan sank back into the chair, tears stinging her eyes. She was losing her daughter, and she had no idea how to stop it. The next morning, Morgan woke to the sound of gulls crying overhead. She made coffee and sat at the small kitchen table, staring at the photograph and the key. The key had to open something important. She needed answers. She found Liam at the marina, a maze of docks and masts that smelled of diesel fuel and salt. He was working on a boat, his shirt off, his tanned skin glistening with sweat. When he saw her, his expression shifted. Guilt, maybe a hint of fear. "Morgan, you lied to me," she said without preamble. "Yesterday. About the boat." He climbed off the boat and grabbed a towel, wiping his hands. "I didn't lie. I didn't tell you everything." "That's the same thing, Liam." He gestured to a small picnic table under a weathered awning. "Sit. Please. I'll explain." They sat across from each other. The morning sun was already hot on Morgan's shoulders. "Chris and I went into business together," Liam began, his voice low. "A few years before the accident. We bought a fishing trawler. We were going to modernize it, start a charter company." Morgan's breath caught. "He never told me." "He wanted to surprise you. Once it was up and running." Liam looked out at the water. "Chris was going to manage the business side. I'd handle the boats and the tours." "So you still own it?" "The boat?" Liam nodded slowly. "Yeah. It's in dry dock. Right over there." He pointed to a large, rusty trawler at the far end of the marina. "I've been trying to get it ready," he continued. "After the accident, I didn't have the heart to finish it. Felt like a betrayal. But now I need to. I'm in debt. Chris's investment was a big part of the plan." Morgan felt a wave of sympathy, but suspicion still lingered. "And the key?" He reached into his pocket and pulled out a key identical to the one in her hand. "That's the key to the captain's quarters on the boat. Chris kept his half of the documents and plans there. All his notes, his vision for the business." Morgan's heart was pounding. "Can we go see it?" Liam hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah. Come on." They walked down the dock to the trawler. The Sea Serpent, the name painted on the hull in faded letters. Up close it looked even more neglected. The deck was littered with tools and cables. The cabin was dark and cramped. "This is it," Liam said, his voice full of a weary affection. "The dream." Morgan squeezed past him and used the key to open a small locked compartment. Inside, neatly stacked, were piles of documents, business plans, contracts, and a large leather-bound journal. She opened it to a random page. Chris's handwriting filled the pages, neat and precise. Her eyes welled up as she read his words, his excitement, his plans for their future. He was so excited about this, Liam said quietly from the doorway. He talked about it all the time. He said it would be his legacy, for you and Clara. Morgan's hands trembled. What kind of legacy is a boat that's falling apart? The words came out as a choked sob. Liam came over and sat beside her on the small bench. Hey, he said softly. It's okay. He put a hand on her shoulder, and she turned into him, collapsing into his embrace. It was the first genuine comfort she had felt in years. He smelled of salt and sweat and something clean, something safe. She knew she should pull away, but she didn't. They stayed like that for a long moment, the gentle rocking of the boat beneath them. Finally Morgan pulled back, wiping her eyes. I'm sorry. I didn't know any of this. He kept so much from me. He was trying to protect you, Liam said. He always said you worried too much. He wanted to have everything perfect before he told you. Morgan laughed bitterly. Perfect. Nothing about this is perfect. No, Liam agreed. But it was his dream. And maybe we can still make it happen. Morgan looked at him, really looked at him. His blue eyes were earnest, his expression open. Why would you want to do that? She asked. You barely know me. Because Chris was my best friend, Liam said simply. And because I think you and Clara deserve to know what he was working toward. What he wanted for you. Morgan felt something shift inside her. A crack in the wall she'd built around her heart. Okay, she said quietly. Show me what he had planned. They spent the next few hours going through the documents. Chris's vision was ambitious. A charter business that offered eco-tours, fishing trips and sunset cruises. He'd researched everything. Permits, insurance, marketing strategies. It was all there, laid out in meticulous detail. He really thought this through, Morgan said, impressed despite herself. That was Chris. He didn't do anything halfway. As the afternoon sun slanted through the cabin windows, Morgan found a section in the journal that made her pause. It was dated a week before the accident. Met with SJ today. Deal is almost done. Once the property closes, we'll have enough capital to finish the boat and launch by summer. Morgan and Clara will finally have the security they deserve. SJ? Morgan frowned. Who's SJ? Liam leaned over to look. His brow furrowed. I don't know. Chris never mentioned anyone with those initials. Morgan kept reading, but the entries after that were routine. Nothing more about SJ or any deal. She was about to close the journal when a small folded receipt fell out from between the pages. It was from a private airfield on the other side of the state, dated the day before Chris's accident. The receipt was for a chartered plane. Morgan's blood ran cold. What is this? She whispered, holding it up. Liam took the receipt, his face going pale. I don't know. I've never seen this before. Chris was driving when he died, Morgan said, her voice rising. Not flying. He was in our car. Why would he need a chartered plane? Liam stared at the receipt, shaking his head. I don't know, Morgan. I swear I don't know. Morgan stood up, the journal clutched to her chest. Her mind was racing. Chris had been planning something big, something he hadn't told her about. And now there was a flight receipt from the day before he died. This doesn't make sense, she said, her voice breaking. None of this makes sense. Liam stood up and reached for her, but she stepped back. Did you know about this? She demanded. Did you know he was keeping secrets? No, Liam said firmly. Morgan, I swear. I knew about the boat. That's it. Whatever else Chris was involved in, he didn't tell me. Morgan wanted to believe him, but her husband had lied to her. For years. How could she trust anyone? She turned and climbed out of the cabin, the journal still in her hands. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of crimson and gold. The beauty of it felt like a mockery. Morgan walked back to the cottage in a daze, her mind churning with questions. Who was SJ? What deal had Chris been working on? And why had he chartered a plane the day before his death? As she reached the cottage, she saw Clara sitting on the porch steps with a tall, lanky boy. Leo, presumably. They were holding hands, their heads close together. For a moment Morgan felt a pang of envy. Her daughter was falling in love, moving forward with her life, while Morgan was trapped in the past, chasing the ghost of a man she was starting to realize she'd never really known. Clara looked up and saw her. Mom? Are you okay? You look. I'm fine, Morgan lied. I just need to be alone for a bit. She went inside, closing the door behind her. She sat on the couch and opened the journal again, reading every page more carefully this time. Somewhere in these pages was the truth. Morgan couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that receipt. The flight charter. The mysterious initials SJ. The salty breeze that usually lulled her to rest now felt oppressive. She got up at dawn and made coffee, sitting at the kitchen table with Chris's journal spread before her. Clara stumbled downstairs around 8, her hair messy, wearing an oversized t-shirt. You look terrible, Clara said bluntly. Thanks. You look lovely too. Clara poured herself coffee and sat down. What's all this? Your father's things. From a boat he bought. Did he ever mention wanting to start a business? Clara shrugged. Dad never told me anything. He was always protecting us. She made air quotes with her fingers, which really meant lying. Morgan looked up sharply. Don't talk about your father like that. Why not? It's true. Clara's voice was hard. He was never around, always on business trips. And now we find out he had some secret boat project? What else was he hiding? The question hung in the air between them. Morgan had no answer. Clara stood up. I'm going to the marina. Leo's teaching me to sail. Clara, wait. But she was already gone, the screen door slamming behind her. Morgan sat alone with her coffee and her questions. Her phone buzzed. A text from Liam. Found something. Can you come to the boat? Morgan's heart jumped. She grabbed her keys. 20 minutes later, she was climbing aboard the Sea Serpent. Liam was in the captain's quarters, surrounded by papers. Look at this, he said, handing her a folder. Inside was a purchase agreement for a property in Portland. The seller's name, Sarah Jennings. SJ, Morgan breathed. Yeah, Chris was buying a property from her, a commercial building near the waterfront. The deal was supposed to close the week after he died. Morgan felt dizzy. He was buying real estate? With what money? That's the thing. Liam pulled out another document. He took out a loan. A big one. Against your house. The words hit Morgan like a punch to the gut. He mortgaged our house? Without telling me. Liam's face was full of sympathy. Morgan, I'm sorry. I had no idea. None of this was in the papers he showed me about the boat business. Morgan sank onto the bench. We could have lost everything if this deal had gone bad. But it didn't. The loan was paid off after his death. From the life insurance, I assume. Morgan's mind was reeling. I need to talk to this Sarah Jennings. Where is she? Liam hesitated. I looked her up. She still lives in Portland. Runs a real estate development company. Give me her address. Morgan, maybe you should. Give me her address, Liam. He did. Morgan drove to Portland that afternoon, her hands gripping the wheel so tight her knuckles turned white. The address led her to a sleek office building overlooking Casco Bay. Sarah Jennings Real Estate Development, the sign read. Morgan's stomach churned as she rode the elevator to the 3rd floor. The receptionist looked up with a bright smile. Do you have an appointment? No, but I need to speak with Sarah Jennings. It's about Chris Grant. The smile faltered. Oh, I see. Let me check if she's available. 5 minutes later, Morgan was shown into a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows. Sarah Jennings stood up from behind a massive desk. She was beautiful. Mid-30s, dark hair, green eyes. Professional suit. Confident smile. Morgan hated her on sight. Mrs. Grant, Sarah said, extending a hand. I've wanted to meet you. Please sit down. Morgan remained standing. You knew my husband? Yes. We were business partners. I was devastated when I heard about the accident. Sarah's voice was smooth, practiced. Chris was a brilliant investor. He had vision. Investor? He was an insurance salesman. Sarah's eyebrows rose. Is that what he told you? Morgan felt the ground shifting beneath her feet again. Chris had been investing in real estate for years, Sarah continued. Small projects at first, fix and flips, then larger commercial properties. He was very good at it. We were working on a major development when he died. The property in Portland. Yes, a mixed-use building, retail and residential. It would have been very profitable. Morgan's voice was ice. He mortgaged our house to buy it. Sarah had the grace to look uncomfortable. Yes, that was a risk. But Chris was confident. The building was undervalued. We would have made the money back within a year. We? What was your stake in this? I was the seller, and I was going to manage the development. Chris was providing the capital. Morgan felt sick. Were you having an affair? The question came out before she could stop it. Sarah's eyes widened. What? No. Mrs. Grant, I was Chris's business partner. Nothing more. I'm married. Happily. She gestured to a photo on her desk. A man and 2 small children. Morgan felt foolish. And angry. And so lost. Why didn't he tell me? She whispered. About any of this? Sarah's expression softened. I don't know. He said. He said you worried. That he wanted to have everything solid before he shared it with you. He wanted to surprise you with success, not burden you with risk. Morgan's eyes burned with unshed tears. He was protecting me. He loved you very much. He talked about you and your daughter all the time. Morgan sank into the chair. He was with you. The day he died. In the car. Sarah nodded slowly. Yes, we were flying to meet with investors. But the weather turned. The flight was cancelled. So we rented a car. Chris insisted on driving. The storm came in so fast. Her voice broke. I survived. He didn't. I've lived with that guilt every day since. Morgan looked at this woman. This stranger who had been the last person to see her husband alive. What happened to the property? The deal fell through after Chris died. I couldn't find another investor. The building sold to someone else. Sarah paused. I'm sorry, Mrs. Grant. I know this must be overwhelming. Overwhelming didn't begin to cover it. Morgan drove back to Bar Harbor in a daze. Chris had been living a double life. Not an affair, but something just as devastating. A whole world she knew nothing about. When she got back to the cottage, Clara was on the porch with Leo. They were kissing. Morgan cleared her throat loudly. They sprang apart, Clara's face flushing red. Mom, I didn't hear you. Inside. Now. Leo scrambled to his feet. I should go. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Grant. He practically ran down the steps. Clara crossed her arms. Real smooth, Mom. Don't start with me. Not today. What's wrong with you? Why are you so angry all the time? I'm not angry. You're yelling. Morgan took a breath. I'm sorry. I found out some things about your father today. Things I didn't know. Clara's expression shifted. What things? Morgan told her. About Sarah Jennings. About the real estate deals. About the secret life Chris had been living. Clara listened in silence, her face unreadable. When Morgan finished, Clara said quietly, so he lied to both of us. He was trying to provide for us. By risking everything we had? Clara's voice was bitter. That's not protection, Mom. That's control. He made all these decisions without asking us. Without including us. Like we were children. You are a child. I'm 17. In a year I'll be an adult. But Dad never saw that. And neither do you. She turned and went inside, leaving Morgan alone on the porch. The sun was setting again. Another beautiful Maine evening. Morgan felt like she was drowning. Her phone buzzed. Liam, how did it go? She called him instead of texting. It's all true, she said when he answered. He was investing in real estate. He had this whole other life I knew nothing about. I'm sorry, Morgan. Why didn't you know? You were his best friend. There was a long pause. We drifted apart. After high school, we reconnected a few years ago when he came back to look at properties, but we mostly talked about the boat. He kept the rest separate. From everyone. Yeah. Morgan heard voices in the background on Liam's end. Where are you? The Rusty Anchor. The bar on the waterfront. Come have a drink. You sound like you need one. Morgan hesitated. Then, okay, give me 20 minutes. The Rusty Anchor was exactly what it sounded like. A dive bar with wooden floors, nautical decor, and the smell of fried food and beer. Liam was at the bar, nursing a whiskey. He slid a glass of white wine toward her as she sat down. You look like hell, he said. Everyone keeps telling me that today. Sorry, but it's true. He smiled gently. Talk to me. And she did. Everything poured out. Her anger at Chris. Her guilt for being angry. Her fear that she was losing Clara. Her terror that she'd never really known her husband at all. Liam listened without interrupting. When she finally ran out of words, he said, You want to know what I think? What? Chris was an idiot. Morgan blinked. What? He was my best friend and I loved him. But he was an idiot. You don't keep secrets from the people you love. You don't make huge decisions without them. That's not protecting someone. That's not trusting them. Morgan felt tears welling up. He didn't trust me. Maybe. Or maybe he was so scared of failing that he couldn't face it. Some people are like that. They'd rather handle everything alone than risk disappointing someone. That's stupid. Yeah, it is. Liam took a sip of his whiskey. But people are stupid sometimes, especially when they're trying to be heroes. Morgan wiped her eyes. I don't know what to do with all this. How do I move forward when everything I thought I knew was wrong? Liam turned to face her fully. You figure out what's true now, not what was true then. Now. And what's true now? You're here. You're strong. You're raising a daughter on your own. And you're trying to understand a complicated man who loved you, but didn't know how to show it in the right ways. Morgan looked at him, really looked at him. His blue eyes were so earnest, so kind. How did you get so wise? She asked softly. He laughed. I'm not wise. I've just made enough mistakes to recognize them in other people. The bartender came over. Another round? Sure, Liam said. They stayed at the bar for hours, talking, laughing even. Liam told her about his own failed marriage. How his ex-wife had left him because he was married to the ocean more than to her. She wasn't wrong, he admitted. I put everything into my work, into my boats. I didn't leave room for her. Do you regret it? Sometimes. But mostly I regret that I didn't see it happening, that I didn't fight for what mattered. Morgan felt a warmth spreading through her chest. From the wine or from his words, she wasn't sure. What matters to you now? She asked. Liam looked at her. And something shifted in his expression. Honest connections. Real ones. Not the kind built on secrets or half-truths. Their eyes held for a long moment. The air between them felt charged. Electric. Morgan's heart was racing. The bartender broke the spell. Last call, folks. Morgan blinked and looked around. The bar was nearly empty. I should get home, she said, standing up. The world tilted slightly. Oh, maybe I shouldn't drive. You're not driving, Liam said firmly. Come on. I'll walk you home. They walked through the quiet streets of Bar Harbor, the summer night warm and full of stars. The scent of honeysuckle drifted on the breeze. It's beautiful here, Morgan said. I'd forgotten. It is. I never want to live anywhere else. Even with all the tourists? Even with all the tourists. He grinned. They keep me in business. They reached the cottage too soon. Morgan didn't want the night to end. Thank you, she said. For listening. For understanding. Anytime. Liam hesitated, then said, Morgan, I know this is complicated. Everything with Chris. But I want you to know. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad too. The words hung between them. Liam took a half step closer. Morgan's breath caught. He reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering on her cheek. Is this okay? He whispered. Morgan nodded, unable to speak. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His lips brushed hers, soft and tentative. The kiss deepened and Morgan felt something inside her breaking open. Not breaking apart but breaking free. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. Wow, Liam said. Yeah, Morgan agreed. Then the porch light flicked on. Clara stood in the doorway, her face shocked. Mom! Morgan stepped back from Liam, her face flushing. Clara, are you kidding me? Clara's voice was loud, sharp. Dad's been dead for 3 years and you're already making out with his best friend? Clara, it's not. It's not what? It's not what it looks like. Clara laughed bitterly. Because it looks like you're betraying Dad. Again. Again? What are you talking about? You were never there for him. You were always so busy worrying, so busy criticizing his choices. Maybe if you'd supported him, he wouldn't have had to keep secrets. The words were like knives. Morgan felt the wine and the emotion and the guilt all crashing over her at once. That's not fair, she managed. Nothing's fair. Clara shouted. Nothing's been fair since Dad died. And now you're just moving on? Like he never mattered. Your father mattered more than anything, Liam said quietly. Clara whirled on him. You don't get to talk. You're supposed to be his friend. How could you? She choked on the words. How could you do this? She ran inside, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. Morgan stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. I should go, Liam said softly. Yeah. Morgan couldn't look at him. I'm sorry. Don't be. She's hurting. She has every right to her feelings. Do I have a right to mine? Liam cupped her face gently. Yes, you do. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. He kissed her forehead and walked away into the darkness. Morgan went inside. The cottage was silent. Clara's bedroom door was locked. Morgan knocked. Honey, please. Let's talk about this. Go away. Clara. I said go away. Morgan pressed her forehead against the door. I love you. We'll figure this out. No response. Morgan went to her own room and lay on the bed, still in her clothes. She stared at the ceiling, her mind racing. Everything was falling apart. Her daughter hated her. Her husband had lied to her. And she was falling for a man she barely knew. What was she doing? The next morning Clara was gone. A note on the kitchen table. Staying with Leo for a few days. Need space. Morgan crumpled the note in her fist. This was a nightmare. She called Liam. Clara's gone. She's staying with that boy. Leo's a good kid. She'll be safe. That's not the point. She's 17. Morgan, she needs time to process. You pushing her right now will only make it worse. So what am I supposed to do? Just let her go. Yes. For now. Give her space. Morgan wanted to scream, but she knew he was right. She hung up and sat in the empty cottage, surrounded by Chris's things and her own mistakes. Then she saw it. In the journal on a page she'd skimmed past before. A name. An address in Bangor. Jay Morrison knows the full story. If anything happens to me, talk to him. Morgan's hands started shaking. Who was Jay Morrison? And what story did he know? She grabbed her keys. It was time to find out what Chris had really been hiding. Morgan drove to Bangor with her heart in her throat. The address led her to a modest law office in a renovated brick building. Morrison and Associates, the brass plate read. Inside, a receptionist looked up with a professional smile. Can I help you? I need to see James Morrison. It's about Chris Grant. The smile faded. Let me check if he's available. 10 minutes later, Morgan was sitting across from a man in his 60s with kind eyes and gray hair. Mrs. Grant, he said warmly. I've been expecting you. Not now necessarily, but someday. You knew I'd come? Chris said you would. Eventually. He said you were too smart not to figure things out. Morrison opened a drawer and pulled out a sealed envelope. He left this with me 3 years ago, with instructions to give it to you if you ever came asking questions. Morgan's hands trembled as she took the envelope. Her name was written on it in Chris's handwriting. Should I read it now? That's up to you. But yes, I think you should. Morrison stood. I'll give you some privacy. Take all the time you need. He left, closing the door behind him. Morgan stared at the envelope for a long moment. Then she opened it. Morgan, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. And you found out about the investments, the boat, probably Sarah Jennings. You're angry. You feel betrayed. I don't blame you. I need you to understand something. Everything I did for you and Clara. But I did it the wrong way. I see that now. When I was 15, my father lost everything in a bad business deal. Our house. His dignity. His will to live. He died 6 months later. My mother blamed herself for not stopping him. For trusting him. I swore I would never put you through that. So I made all my risky decisions alone. I thought if I succeeded, I'd be a hero. If I failed, at least you wouldn't feel responsible. But keeping secrets from you wasn't protecting you. It was failing you. The truth is, I was scared. Scared of disappointing you. Scared of becoming my father. Scared that if you knew how much debt I was in, how many risks I was taking, you'd see me as the failure I always feared I was. The boat with Liam was supposed to be my safe investment. Something solid. Something I could share with you. The real estate was my gamble. My shot at giving you the life I thought you deserved. Sarah Jennings is a good person. A business partner, nothing more. The day we died, Morgan's breath caught. He'd written He'd known. We were going to close a deal that would have set us up for life. But I was distracted that day. Thinking about you. About how I was going to tell you everything. About how scared I was that you'd leave me when you found out. I wasn't paying attention to the road. The rain came so fast. By the time I saw the truck, it was too late. If you're reading this, it means I didn't make it. And I'm sorry. Sorry for the secrets. Sorry for not trusting you enough to share my fears. Sorry for leaving you and Clara alone. There's money. Morrison has the details. Life insurance. Investment accounts you don't know about. Enough to take care of you both for a long time. Please don't let my mistakes poison your future. Don't let my fear become yours. Lie fully. Love openly. Be brave enough to trust people the way I should have trusted you. And Morgan, if you find happiness with someone else, don't feel guilty. I want you to be happy. That's all I ever wanted. I love you. I always have. I always will. Chris. Morgan sat in the silent office, tears streaming down her face. Not tears of anger anymore. Tears of grief. Of understanding. Of a strange bittersweet release. Chris hadn't been a villain. He'd been a scared man carrying wounds from his past. Just like her. Morrison came back in quietly. Are you all right? No. Yes. I don't know. Morgan wiped her eyes. He mentioned money? Yes. There are several accounts. Insurance policies. Investment returns. All told about $2 million. Morgan's jaw dropped. $2 million. Chris was very good at what he did. And very careful despite what it might look like. The house was never truly at risk. He had backup plans. Safety nets. He thought of everything. Except how to talk to his wife. Morrison's voice was gentle. That's why he came to me. He wanted to make sure if anything happened you'd be taken care of. And you'd know the truth. Morgan left the office in a daze. $2 million. Security for her and Clara. But no Chris to share it with. The money felt like blood money. A payment for all the years of lies. She drove back to Bar Harbor slowly, her mind turning over everything she'd learned. Chris had loved her. In his broken, frightened way, he'd loved her. But love without trust was just another kind of prison. She pulled up to the cottage and saw Liam's truck in the driveway. He was sitting on the porch steps looking worried. I've been calling you, he said, standing up. Are you okay? I don't know what I am. She showed him the letter. He read it silently, his expression growing sadder with each line. I'm sorry, he said finally. This must be so hard. Do you want to know the worst part? Morgan's voice cracked. I understand him. I understand being so scared of failing that you can't be honest. I've been doing the same thing with Clara for years. What do you mean? I've been so afraid she'd make my mistakes that I never trusted her to make her own choices. I've been controlling her the same way Chris controlled me. Out of love. Out of fear. But still controlling. Liam pulled her into a hug. You're not your husband, Morgan. And Clara's not you. You both get to write your own stories. Morgan leaned into him, breathing in his scent. Salt and soap and something uniquely Liam. I kissed you, she said. Yeah. You did. Clara's right to be angry. No, she's not. Liam pulled back to look at her. She's hurt. That's different. But you have every right to move forward with your life. Chris wanted that for you. He said so in the letter. It feels too soon. Maybe. But feelings don't follow timelines. And this, he gestured between them. This is real. Isn't it? Morgan looked up at him. His blue eyes were so steady. So sure. Yes, she whispered. It's real. Then we'll figure it out. Together. But first you need to talk to Clara. She won't listen to me. Then make her listen. Morgan found Clara at the marina, sitting on the dock with Leo. The boy saw Morgan coming and quickly made himself scarce. Clara didn't look up. Come to drag me home? No. Come to apologize. That got Clara's attention. What? Morgan sat down beside her, letting her legs dangle over the water. I'm sorry. For everything. For comparing you to me. For not trusting you. For trying to control your life out of fear. Clara was silent, staring at the water. Your father wrote me a letter, Morgan continued, before he died. About his mistakes. About how fear made him keep secrets. So I've been doing the same thing. Keeping you at arm's length because I'm scared. Scared you'll get hurt. Scared you'll make wrong choices. Scared I'll lose you the way I lost him. Clara's jaw tightened. You won't lose me. Unless you push me away. Clara's jaw tightened. You won't lose me. Unless you push me away. I know. And I'm done pushing. Morgan took a breath. I can't promise I won't worry. I can't promise I won't make mistakes. But I promise I'll try to trust you. To treat you like the young woman you are. Not the child you used to be. Clara finally looked at her. Her eyes were red. I miss him, Mom. I miss Dad. And I'm so angry at him for lying. For leaving. For dying and leaving us alone. Me too, baby. Me too. They sat in silence for a moment, waves lapping against the dock. Is it real? Clara asked quietly. With Liam? Morgan nodded. I think so. I know it's fast. I know it seems wrong. But it doesn't seem wrong. Clara's voice was small. That's what scared me. Seemed right. And I felt like I was betraying Dad by thinking that. Your father wanted us to be happy. He said so in his letter. We're allowed to move forward, Clara. Both of us. Even if it hurts. Especially if it hurts. That means it matters. Clara leaned her head on Morgan's shoulder. Leo kissed me. Really kissed me. And I liked it. Morgan smiled. Tell me about him. And Clara did. For the first time in years she opened up. Talked about her feelings. Her fears. Her hopes. Morgan listened without judgment. Without criticism. Just listened. When they finally walked back to the cottage together, the sun was setting. The sky was painted in brilliant oranges and deep purples. It's beautiful here, Clara said. I get why Dad loved it. Yeah. Me too. That night Morgan called Liam. How did it go? He asked. Good. Really good. We talked. Really talked. I'm glad. Liam, about us. It's okay if you need time, he said quickly. I understand. That's not what I was going to say. Morgan smiled. I was going to say I want to give this a real shot. You and me. But slowly. I need to figure out who I am without Chris before I can be someone with you. I can do slow, Liam said. I've waited this long. For what? For someone real. Someone who makes me want to try again. Morgan's heart swelled. Come over tomorrow? For dinner. Clara wants to meet you properly. Without the drama. I'd like that. Over the next few weeks a new rhythm emerged. Morgan and Clara worked on the cottage together, making it theirs. Not just Chris's memory but their home. Liam came by most evenings. Sometimes they worked on the boat. Sometimes they just sat on the porch, talking and watching the sunset. Clara and Leo were inseparable. Young love in its sweetest, most innocent form. Morgan watched her daughter bloom and realized she'd been holding her back all along. One afternoon, Liam took Morgan out on the sea serpent. He'd been working on it non-stop and it was finally seaworthy. They motored out of the harbor into open water. The Atlantic stretched endlessly before them, glittering in the afternoon sun. She runs beautifully, Morgan said, impressed. She does. Thanks to Chris's plans. He really thought of everything. Morgan looked around the boat, at all the work Liam had put in. What are you going to do with her? Liam cut the engine. They drifted gently, the only sound the cry of gulls and the slap of water against the hull. I want to ask you something, he said, and you can say no, but I hope you'll think about it. Okay. Chris left you his half of the boat in his will. Morrison probably mentioned that. Morgan nodded. He did. I didn't know what to do about it. Be my partner. Help me run the charter business. It's what Chris wanted. And I think. He took her hand. I think it's what I want too. Having you as part of this. Morgan looked at their joined hands. At his hopeful face. At the boat that represented Chris's dream. I don't know anything about boats. I'll teach you. Or business. We'll learn together. Liam. I'm not asking you to marry me, Morgan. Not yet. I'm asking you to take a chance. On this boat. On this business. On me. Morgan felt tears prickling her eyes. But this time they were happy tears. Yes, she said. Yes, I'll be your partner. Liam's face lit up. He pulled her into a kiss. And this time there was no one to interrupt them. The kiss was long and deep and full of promise. When they finally pulled apart, both were grinning like teenagers. So what do we do first? Morgan asked. First? We sail. And they did. Liam taught her how to handle the wheel, how to read the wind, how to navigate by landmarks on the shore. Morgan felt something inside her coming alive. Something she'd thought died with Chris. Hope, joy, possibility. The business launched in August. Sea Serpent Charters. Morgan and Liam co-owners. Clara worked part-time helping with bookings and social media. Leo helped with maintenance and tours. It was a family business. Just not the family Morgan had expected. Their first season was modest but successful. Word spread about the friendly service and the beautiful boat. By September they were booking out weeks in advance. One evening, after a particularly good day, Morgan and Liam sat on the boat watching the sun set over the harbor. Your ears are turning red, Morgan said suddenly. Liam touched them self-consciously. What? Chris used to do that. When he was about to say something important. She smiled. What is it? Liam took a breath. I love you. The words hung in the air between them. Morgan's heart was pounding. That is important. You don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. I've probably loved you since that first day on the beach. But I wanted to wait until I was sure. Until you were sure. Morgan looked at this man who had given her patience, understanding, partnership. I love you too, she said. I think I have for a while. I was just too scared to admit it. And now I'm done being scared. Liam cupped her face and kissed her gently. Good, because I have another question. What? He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Morgan's breath caught. It's too soon for what you think, he said quickly. This isn't an engagement ring. He opened the box. Inside was a simple silver ring with a small compass engraved on it. It's a promise ring, Liam said. A promise that wherever we go, whatever we do, we'll navigate it together. As partners. As equals. No secrets. No fear. Morgan's eyes welled with tears. It's perfect. He slipped it on her right hand. Not her left. Not yet. But someday. Maybe. Thank you, Morgan whispered. For being patient. For understanding. For everything. Thank you for taking a chance on me. On us. They kissed as the sun disappeared below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. In October, Clara left for college in Boston. Morgan helped her pack, fighting tears the whole time. I'll be back for Thanksgiving, Clara said, hugging her tight. And winter break. And probably random weekends when I get homesick. You better, Morgan said. And call me. Every day. Every other day, Clara negotiated. I need to have my own life, Mom. I know you do. Clara pulled back and looked at her seriously. Are you going to be okay? Without me? Yes. I have Liam, the business, and myself. I'm going to be just fine. Good. Because you deserve to be happy, Mom. Really happy. Morgan watched her daughter drive away, feeling proud and sad and hopeful all at once. Clara was ready for the world. And maybe finally so was Morgan. 2 years later, the sea serpent cut through the calm waters of Frenchman Bay, her engines purring smoothly. Morgan stood at the wheel, confident and sure after 2 years of practice. Liam was below deck, helping a family of tourists set up their fishing gear. Clara was home for the summer, working full-time and saving money for graduate school. Leo had proposed last month. The wedding was planned for next June. Morgan's life looked nothing like she'd imagined 3 years ago, but it was good. Really good. The business was thriving. They'd added a second boat and hired 2 more staff. The cottage on the bluff was full of laughter and life. And Liam was her partner in every sense of the word. They'd moved in together last fall. Marriage wasn't off the table, but they weren't in a rush. They'd learned that love didn't follow timelines. Hey, Captain, Liam called, climbing up from below. Tourists are all set. Thanks, first mate, Morgan said, grinning. He came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. Beautiful day, he murmured. The best. I was thinking. After this tour we should take the boat out. Just us. There's something I want to ask you. Morgan's heart skipped. What? You'll have to wait and see. His ears were turning red. Morgan laughed. Okay, I can wait. But she thought she knew what he was going to ask. And she thought she knew what her answer would be. Yes. Yes to the future. Yes to love. Yes to taking chances. Yes to navigating life with this man who'd helped her find herself again. The sun was warm on her face. The salt air filled her lungs. Somewhere Morgan thought Chris was watching, glad that she'd found her way. She'd honored his memory, but she'd also moved forward. And that's what he would have wanted. The sea serpent sailed on through the sparkling water, carrying Morgan toward a future she'd never expected. A future she'd earned. A future she couldn't wait to live. What did you think of Morgan and Liam's story? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Rate this story from 0 to 10. What score would you give it? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications.